All right, here we go for 2.2 fractions and word problems. I am Dr. Michelle Ehrig. If you do not have the free book, go ahead and click the link in the description to go to the Growth Mindset Collaborative website and get the book for free. And if you think you need more practice questions, at the end of this video, you can learn how to buy our full program for a one-time fee of $49, and half of your purchase supports nonprofit initiatives. All right, let's get going. So when it comes to fraction word problems, we are going to start off by doing no ASVAB questions and pretending you haven't really done fractions before. So we're going to look at adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing fractions. Now, in this lesson, we will get to ASVAB style word problems, but fractions are going to come out a lot in AR because we're also going to look at it for unit rates and proportions and ratios. So we're going to add, subtract, multiply, and divide fractions and just get a start on some fraction word problems. Let's take a look at adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing fractions. Now, remember that when we add and subtract fractions, we have to have the same denominator. So our first 8 questions, we're going to look at making sure we have the same denominator. Then we can add or subtract the numerators. The bottom number, the down number, is denominator. The numerator is the top number. Now, when it comes to multiplying fractions, I like to reduce the fractions first. We reduce by going up and down, or diagonally when it comes to multiplying, and then we multiply across. So we don't need the common denominator for multiplying fractions. For division, you probably heard something called keep, change, flip, maybe in 5th grade, where we keep our first fraction, we change the division to multiplication, we flip the second fraction, and then we do our multiplication steps. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at adding fractions first. So again, you will not get an ASVAB question like this, but we're learning how to deal with fractions for the ASVAB AFQT problems that we're going to see in AR. So I have 1/4 plus 1/8 or plus 3/8. Now, if you can notice, our 4 and 8, those are different numbers. So we don't just add up and do 1 plus 3 is 4, 4 plus 8 is 12. That's not how we do these. We need these to have the same denominator. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, well, I know that 4 can go into 8 evenly. I know that because I can know 4 times 2 is 8. And if you're doing multiplication, Panda, you know what I'm talking about. So we're going to have our new denominators be 8. Now, in this case, the second fraction already has everything set up for us. It's already 8. So that 3 just slides on down. But that first fraction, remember what we have to do is we have to multiply by 1. And 100 divided by 100 is 1. 1 million divided by a million is 1. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So as long as we multiply the top and bottom by the same number, we're essentially multiplying by 1. So if I do 4 times 2 to get 8 in the denominator, I have to do 1 times 2 to get 2 in the numerator. And that's what makes equivalent fractions. So now that we both have 8s as our denominator, we can just add going across. 5/8, done. All right, we're going to do the next one, but I'm going to go a little bit quicker. So I know that 5, 6, and 1/3 have different denominators. I know from multiplication, Panda, that 3 times 2 is 6. So my new denominators are going to be 6. That 5 can come down because it already has a denominator of 6. 3 times 2 is 6. So now I've got to do 1 times 2 to get 2. Now when we add across, we get 7, 6. Now here's where it's catchy. The numerator is bigger than the denominator. That's called an improper fraction. So the way that we reduce it is we do kind of like a division. How many times does 6 go into 7? Once, with 1 remainder. So instead of putting remainder 1 like you might have done in 4th grade, we put big 1 whole with that remainder over whatever we divided by, the divisor. All right, this next one, this one's set up, it looks pretty easy because look at our denominators are the same. But when we add going across, we get 12 over 12, and we don't want that. We want it to be reduced. So these numbers are the same, so it just equals 1. Here we've got 3/5 plus 2/10. We know our denominators are going to be 10. This stays the same because the denominator is already 10. Now I'm going to do 5 times 2 is 10, 3 times 2 is 6, and then adding across. Now this can be reduced because both 8 and 10 are even numbers. And anytime we have an even number, like if the answer was 8/10 on the ASVAB as part of a word problem, you probably wouldn't see that as an answer choice. So you have to learn how to reduce fractions. Because both of these numbers are even, remember, if we could multiply the top and bottom by the same number, we can also divide the top and number by the same number. So 8 divided by 2 is 4, 10 divided by 2 is 5, and that gives us 4/5. Moving on to subtraction. Okay, I'm going to go a little bit faster now because we already know how to simplify. So we're going to say, okay, I know that 12 can be my least common denominator because 6 times 2 is 12. So 5 times 2 is 10. And 4 times 3 is 12. And 1 times 3 is 3. Now that both of our denominators are 12, we can just do 10 minus 3 and get 7/12. In our next video, or our next question, we have 7/8 minus 3/16. So again, we can't simplify this because these denominators are not the same. So we're going to make our denominators be 16. 8 times 2 is 16. 7 times 2 is 14. Over here, this is already 16, so that just comes down. And then we can just subtract across. Here we've got 9/10 minus 2/5. Our denominator is going to be 10. This 9 just comes on down. 5 times 2 is 10. 2 times 2 is 4. Then we go across and we get 5/10. Now this is another example of if this was a word problem, 5/10 wouldn't be one of the answer choices because this fraction can be reduced. It can't be reduced by 2 because 5 is a prime number, but 5 can go into 10. So we're going to divide both our numerator and our denominator by 5. So 5 divided by 5 is 1. 10 divided by 5 is 2. So our answer would be 1/2. Here we've got 11/12 minus 1/3. Okay, our denominator will be 12 because multiplication panda is amazing. 3 times 4 is 12. 1 times 4 is 4. And subtract going across. I'm going to pause the video for 1 second. All right, well, I just took a delay because I kept saying multiplication panda, and I was like, I better make sure that game still exists, and it doesn't. So you need to go on your phone, and instead of playing whatever Candy Crush or other games you play on your phone, you need to get math facts games on your phone. So I went through a bunch of them. None of them excited me like the old multiplication panda did from like 10 years ago when my godson was like younger. But find arithmetic games so that when you're bored and you're wherever, you're just practicing adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. All right, let's keep going with this. There's also fraction games. I'm just saying, but I need to stop saying multiplication panda because that game apparently doesn't exist anymore. Something ChatGPT said to Panda Resort, but when I started looking at it, it's not the game I thought it was. All right, so we're going to do this one now. Now, this is very important. When it comes to multiplying fractions, the most important thing to do is to reduce the fraction first. When we are multiplying, we can reduce the fractions up and down or diagonal, never straight across. Up and down or diagonal, never straight across. Now, in proportions, we only can reduce up and down. But when multiplying fractions, up and down or diagonal, never straight across. See how my head is going left and right? No across. So here I can say, well, on the diagonal, I have a 3 and a 3. And since these can go into each other and they're both divisible by 1, I can cross them out. So now when I multiply across, I already have the reduced fraction answer. Here I've got 4/7 times 2/3. Now I'm trying to trick you. I'm trying for you to think, well, I can reduce the 4 and 2, but you can never go straight across. So this is already as simplified as it's going to get. So 4 times 2 multiplying across is 8. 7 times 3 is 21, and this is our answer. We could not reduce it ahead of time, so we can't reduce it after. Here we've got 5/6 times 3/4. So we can say 3 goes into 6 2 times, but now nothing else can be reduced because that 2 and 4 are in the denominator, and we cannot reduce going across. So we've got 5 times 1 is 5, 2 times 4 is 8. Here we've got 7/8 times 2/5. The 2 and can go into 8 4 times. Nothing else can be reduced. 7 times 1 is 7. 4 times 5 is 20. For this next set, we're keep changing flipping. So we're keeping the first fraction, changing the division to multiplication, flipping the second fraction, then we're reducing, then we're multiplying across. Remember, you won't get pretty ASVAB questions like this. There'll be word problems, but we're learning the skill here. So I've got 3/4. I'm going to keep the 3/4, change this to multiplication, and then I'm going to take my fraction, and instead of putting 2/5, I'm going to write 5/2 because I got to flip it. Flip it, flip it. Now I'm going to say, okay, can I reduce anything? And in this case, nothing can be reduced. So I'm just going to multiply across. 3 times 5 is 15. 4 times 2 is 8. Now this fraction can be reduced. 8 goes into 15 one time with 7 left over. So my fraction is 1 7/8. So 2/5 of 3/4. How many times can 2/5 go into 3/4? 2/5 can go into 3/4 1 7/8 time. I know it's crazy, but that's just how it is. All right, let's do our next one. Here we've got 5/6. So I'm going to keep this one. I'm going to change this to multiplication. And then I'm going to take my 1/3 and flip it to 3/1. Now I can multiply across, but notice because I'm multiplying now, I can see, well, these two, they both have 3 in them. So I can reduce this to 3, reduce this to 2, because 3 goes into 6 2 times. And now when I multiply across, I'm left with 5/2. And we know that 2 goes into 5 2 times with 1 remainder. So our answer is 2 1/2. Keep the 7/8. Change the division to multiplication. Flip the 3/4 to 4/3. 4 can go into 8 2 times. Multiply across. 7 times 1 is 7. 2 times 3 is 6. And then I can reduce the fraction. 9/10. So what is 2/3 of 9/10? Keep the 9/10, change the division to multiplication, flip the fraction. I cannot reduce 9 and 3. That's straight across. I can only multiply straight across. I cannot reduce the 10 and the 2. So when I go across, I get 27/20. And then 20 can go into 27 one time with 7 left. All right, let's look at some fraction word problems. So solving word problems with fractions. What are our fractions? Are we adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing? What's our expression? What operation are we doing? And then simplify it and make it a mixed number if needed. All right, let's scroll this way. So we've got a worker completed 3/8 of a job in the morning. And in the afternoon, he did 5/12 of a job. So afternoon. And it wants to know what completed of the day. So we're going to add these together. We're doing the morning plus the afternoon. 3/8 plus 5/6. 8 and 6. 6 can't go into 8. 8 times 2 is 16, but 6 can't go into 16. 8 times 3 is 24, and 6 can go into 24. So I know my denominators are going to be 24. 8 times 3 is 24. 3 times 3 is 9. Plus sign comes down. 6 times 4 is 24. 5 times 4 is 20. Add across. You would not see that answer, so you have to reduce it. 29 minus 24 tells me that there's 5 left over. So 1/54 of the job, 1 5/24 of the job was done. All right, warehouse at 5/6 on Monday, 3/8 on Tuesday. How many are all together? So we're basically adding Monday plus Tuesday. 5/6 plus 3/8. Well, again, here we already know our new denominator is going to be 24. 6 times 4 is 24. 5 times 4 is 20. Oh, this is literally the same fraction. Oh, how horrible is that? Add going across. Same problem, different scenario. 1 and 5, 24ths. I don't think I realized it when I wrote the questions. All right, so this concludes fractions. See you soon. We got this, guys. Bye. All right, thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was helpful for you. The full course with another 700 questions and video answers is available at heydrtestprep.com for only $49 to get ready for the AFQT. Half of all proceeds support nonprofit initiatives with at least $10 of your purchase supporting troops and veterans. All right, bye guys. We got this.